Yeah, my plan is to talk about music recording a bit more this time. So
Mm.
because obviously you set up your own studio and yeah, so I looked at your Facebook page again and you posted on the 6th of May that how it's called YSB Studios is up and running. So can you tell a bit more about that? You got your own studio now completed?
Yeah, it's completed. Very excited. I've been, as I think you do know, I've been recording my own music for a long time, but it's always been just 4 track and just I didn't care about
Yeah.
hi-fi at all. I was just interested in having fun and getting songs down, and it's just grown and grown and grown, and it really is kind of taken over my life to a large extent. So I've been doing my brother's music. The he's recently made an album that's just I put out yesterday.
Yeah, I've seen
Uh,
that.
yeah, and so I've taken it more and more seriously as the years have passed, and I've been lucky enough to be able to invest a little bit of money into it. So I have the synth of my dreams and the full, the big piano, 88 key controller thing, and a couple of outboard things, and some in the box things. But most importantly, what's in my brain, is now kind of in tune with what is necessary, and what is professional.
Yeah.
Uh, And so I'm getting more and more confident and doing more for other people, for money as well. So that's nice. And again, it doesn't lose its fun as well. Because it's been so organic. I still get to experiment and try and find new ways of doing things, um, and messing around really. So yeah, that's where I'm at the moment.
Yeah, speaking of fun, I think I wrote down a question. What's most fun, like writing the songs, doing the music, being kind of the producer, being the engineer, or is it because for me, the engineering part, I do it very much hobby-like, is like the annoying part. So do you have fun with some parts more or less?
Yes, it's a good point. The engineering part is the least fun. Getting the cable
Yeah.
together and plugging it into the right thing. And the back of my desk is just looks like spaghetti, and it's absolutely horrible. And I hate my mind is not very good at that stuff. So I'm actually limiting I'm happy to limit my setup to an extent because I don't want to deal with more wires and leads and things.
Yeah.
Um, so that's my least favorite thing, like yours. And yeah, but I don't mind it. It's only it's fine. It's kind of like manual labor. It's a bit of manual labor, and that's fine to put in some manual labor for things you love. This songwriting, I'm not sure if songwriting is good. It's wonderful. I don't know what everything else is wonderful. Apart from the engineering, everything else is fun. I think finding new songs and more recently finding looking for synth sounds and playing with this synth is probably the most fun for me at the moment. Discovering how it works. I've only just touched the surface. So, because that's quite new to me, I think that's the most fun at
Yeah.
the moment.
Does it like influence you in the songwriting process? Because sometimes for me, it's like I'm playing around with a new instrument or a new sound, and then it really, uh, yeah,
Leads to something.
paves
Yeah.
the way of how the song is going. Might be completely different than,
Yeah, it's happened a couple of times, not as much as it will, I think, because the more I learn about it, I think the more it will influence songwriting. I think it's still the guitar is my first songwriting thing. But I hope that other elements will, I hope that the synth and what it can do will bring about songs.
Yeah.
At the moment, it's more of a device to, as you say, take a song in a different direction, maybe, rather than come up with the organic song itself. So I don't sing along to, playing the synth yet. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But I do want to discover how to make sounds from scratch. I can, it's not that difficult actually to make little, basic sounds from scratch. But I do want to get into the more depth with that and trying to find just better control over this, this instrument. It's just a very complicated instrument, obviously.
Okay. What I think is interesting is I listened to your latest album before now, and I think there are like lots of sounds and it's really dense, and I don't know, you played around with electronic drums and stuff like this. So I don't know actually where my question is going, but as you said before, you kind of like the more basic approach, or don't want to mess around too much, but at the same time you're loving to use lots of sounds. It seems to me.
Yeah, it's a constant struggle, really. It depends on what you're, what am I trying to achieve with my own music, and it could be a whole album like this, the last one. I didn't experiment as much as perhaps I would have liked to, because I wanted it to stay a bit like a classic full-length 12-song album. I couldn't really go for it. So I hope the next one might be a bit more, even more experimental and a little more carefree, and maybe a little less dense as well. I'm not sure, but the more confident I get with production and stuff, I think the more I can take risks, with sounds and taking sounds apart. I made this album called On Purpose a few years ago, and I liked it a lot because it didn't have a foundation at all. My foundation for the last album, apart from one song or two songs, was a drum sound, essentially, and a vocal sound as well that remains the same throughout the whole album. But I might go back to this kind of very uncohesive approach again, because I do enjoy that. Using a different drum sound, for instance, for every song, a different bass sound for every song, a different bass instrument for every song, if you have that many basses, which I don't. But it could be a synth, it could be synth stuff. So I might do that, less consistent, do you know what I mean?
Does it depend on the very much, because what I sometimes struggle with is like the spectrum of where the sounds get in each other's way. So, and to like, okay, this instrument is here and this is here, and sometimes it's hard because of the frequencies and stuff. So are you doing it because of things like this? So you need another bass drum, or is it to have another feeling for the song?
What do you mean, if I'm tracking something else new, or do you mean when I'm tracking layers?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually the feeling, I think. It's also a little bit of experimentation just for the hell of it. It doesn't hurt anyone to put another idea into a piece of music, It's very rare that something just cannot be added to, it's very rare that there's a vocal and a guitar and it just, for me, and that's it. That's all that is. It just has to be that on its own. I think maybe once, in all my songwriting, have I thought it's perfect as it is with no, and even then I would add harmonies, you know. It's just so much fun, you know. But layering now, you do, yeah, it's hard to say. I don't know. I think there's a bit of me that I should get out of, which tells you that, or tells me that, you know, it needs a drum kit or it needs a bass guitar, when it probably doesn't, or it doesn't necessarily. So I think on the next album I'll be a bit more like that, a bit more like, well, it doesn't necessarily, I can just put a kazoo there, you know, silly sound or something, find something completely different. Yeah, oh, there you go, yeah. Do something, you know, just out of the realm of rock and indie and stuff like that, you know, it's try and make it a bit more interesting.
Yeah.
And that's never going to ruin the song either, you know. You know, it's just going to be, you know, it's more interesting, different.
Maybe you can take us back. You said that you're playing around with it for many years now, and but anyhow, can you say something about how you acquired the necessary skills to do that? And did you have something like a breakthrough moment, or is it like continually playing, you get more knowledge continually?
Well, there are two types of knowledge, aren't there? You know, there's stuff that you can be told and taught, and there's stuff that is innate and natural to an extent. So I think, I don't know if much of it is natural, really. My process, I remember very, very young when I was a kid, I listened to, I think I was singing along to a cassette, a Beatles cassette, and I think I recorded the vinyl. I think I had a cassette player, and I was recording my voice singing along to the Beatles from a vinyl. I think that's what was happening, and I remember that moment was really interesting. Just to find, you know, to have that eureka moment of, oh my God, this is me with the Beatles, you know, this
Yeah.
on this cassette. How cool is that? So that kind of interest has not stopped, and so I love the 4-track. I love it. I've still got the 4-track for its big chunky buttons and its limited ability. And so the layering started there, and you had 4 tracks. Or you could, and then I discovered obviously you can have 8 tracks. You know, if you bounce 2 tracks down, you can get 2 more. Yeah, 4-track becomes 6, and then 6 becomes 8, and then you actually, you know, you very clearly hear the quality getting worse and worse. So then I got into the digital realm. I think I borrowed an 8-track from someone and messed around with that. I didn't enjoy it very much, but the sounds were good. It sounded good. So I didn't enjoy the process, but I enjoyed the result. And then I got a computer, you know, laptop, after many years of wanting one, and got GarageBand, and I was, you know, a kid in a toy shop for many years, and I didn't always make great music with it because it's kind of too easy in a way to just make music. But it carried me forward, and I kept using the 4-track as well. When I went on holiday, I used to take the 4-track and still write songs. That's still my favorite kind of way of doing things. So I tried to amalgamate the two, this kind of hi-fi clean sound with the kind of big knobs and buttons sound, you know, and tape. I wish I had a real tape machine. That would be nice.
Yeah.
The learning side of it has really just been having to learn, force it, you know, because once you get a new piece of equipment that will allow you to do something, you have to learn about it. You know, you have to learn how it operates. You know, like a compressor. I've only just really figured out how to use a real compressor, you know, in a real studio, because in GarageBand, you know, I don't think I use compressors at all. So that kind of thing, you have to learn about gain and boring stuff, you know, the really boring stuff. And then you have to learn about how to send something from your computer to a compressor and then back again. That was horrible. I
Yeah.
hated it. And, you know, that goes wrong sometimes. It's like, oh, why is it going wrong? There's so many level problems, you know. But once you've got, now I've got it, you know, it's just you know, operational, you know. And now I've got channel strips that are just like mastering channel strip, mixing channel strip, and things are more, you know, they're complicated, but I've done all the hard work, and now I can just use it, and it does what I want it to do, and then you just tweak it. So there's a lot of automated stuff now, and I love all the AI stuff, you know, that you can get, especially for mastering. It's really helped me trust not my ears, because I can't trust my ears with mastering. I have to trust what I can see, and it works. You know, if I trusted my ears with mastering, it would just be, yeah, it has been terrible. It has not gone very well. So with the mastering side, it's visual. You know, you can just do all that with computers, obviously. Maybe one day I'll be able to master with my ears, but I don't know about that. So yeah, I've used YouTube a lot, because it's just fun to listen to good and bad engineers' advice, who are in the rock sphere and indie sphere as well. You know, kind of gone. I went a little bit mad with plugins, a little bit maybe. So I'm a sucker for really good-looking plugins. Yeah, so that's a mistake. You know, don't do that. Although maybe it's not. I don't know. You can just, you know, find out. You can still find out things with mistakes, right? You can, you know, discover how something doesn't work for you. You know, so it is, you know, it's a time-consuming and money-consuming sometimes exercise. You know, and it takes years to get your own setup the way you want it. And then you're able to mix an album pretty quickly, you know, and I'm able to master an album pretty quickly, and to a level that that I know is professional, because I can see it, you know, and I know the rules, and there are some rules that you can break, and some rules not so, you shouldn't really break them. So yeah, it's very different from songwriting, where you can just do what kind of you want, and with mixing you can do what you want if it's your own music. And if it's someone else's music, then it's not so easy.
I think it's really interesting what you said about when you figured out GarageBand, that it was almost like too easy to use, because I lately read that book of Rick Rubin, where he said like sometimes you have too much options nowadays, and it's better to paint a picture with just these two colors, and that sometimes gets you more creative than having all those options and you don't even know where to start.
It's ridiculous. I'm always getting advertised on YouTube, you know, this you know, just this an amazing array. And you know, it's Contact recently. It's Native Instruments are trying to get me to buy their Contact, because it's got 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 sounds on it. I don't want 10,000 sounds. Yeah, it's absolutely, what am I going to do with 10,000 sounds? I've got too many sounds it is. And, you know, you just got to restrain yourself, you know. And the songwriting roots you a little bit in that, because you know that, you know, the organic nature of writing a song cannot be done in any other way, really. I mean, I'm not one to write a song based on a drum beat, particularly. You know, I wouldn't really do that. And a lot of people in the production sphere, you know, it's so big and it's so general. Everyone's different. You know, a lot of people make music with drum beats and, you know, pre-made sound presets. You know, and it's just, to me, that's weird. It's just weird. It will always be weird. to make a sound with a computer's preset. Because I was born in 1978. You didn't have computers at all. Obviously, when I was born, I wasn't making music. But even when I was 15 years later, you didn't really have computers. I don't know when computers are starting to be used in music, but Pro Tools. I remember that being relatively new. I think I don't know if my first album I did have a computer involved in the studio. I don't know if it was there. So I'm still old school, like maybe it's a bit younger than Rick Rubin, but yeah, I still like things being down to earth and real. Yeah, real.
By the way, you're using Pro Tools?
Logic, actually, yeah.
Yeah,
For my
okay.
synths. I've been tempted, but recently my professor at university has forced me to use Ableton,
Okay.
which is okay. Everyone at university says it's incredible, it's amazing. I don't see why it's more incredible or more amazing myself. It's pretty handy when it comes to synth stuff, I guess, but it's not for me. For the long term, Logic is fine. It's just fine. It's just got everything you need. No one needs anything else.
Yeah, I use that too. I mean, even even the brother of like Billie Eilish uses Logic, I think. So can't be too bad.
Yeah, it's just like a canvas. It's like, what canvas do you use? It's the same thing, isn't it? It's like, it doesn't really matter. It does the job. It soaks up the paint.
So okay, you're sitting in your music space right now.
Yeah.
So is it possible if you're a band to really record in that? That's not
No,
possible.
I can't do drums. I could have a kind of rock singer in here, possibly. But that's about it. I can play quite loud guitar. Everything but drums. I don't have a drum kit. I don't have a vocal booth. Everything is it's like a bedroom studio, really.
Okay.
It's this recent thing that I really recommend. You probably heard of it. You probably even have it. I do recommend it. It's called SoundID. And it turns any room and any speakers into a mixing room. This with magic. So have you heard of this?
No.
So it's not a plugin. You can put it in Logic. I do use it in Logic. You can put it in Logic. You have to put it in Logic if you can use it. But even if you're just listening to Spotify through your speakers, you can use it there. So everything that comes out of your speakers is a flat, comes from a flat place. So it turns your speakers flat, and it turns your room flat, and your headphones flat. Everything is flat, and it's incredible for mixing and mastering
Okay.
and recording, because you don't have people spend hundreds and thousands of pounds on treating their room and getting the perfect room and everything,
Yeah.
and for £200 you can have that. And that was revolutionary to me. It's just so wonderful to hear like you're in a proper studio, a real studio, how it should sound. Everything's perfect.
So yeah, you mentioned before that you are going to uni right now, and also that you like the AI stuff. So there's obviously coming up some really big changes now in the coming years. Do you think how? I think I even watched the Rick Beato video where he talked about, okay, will there be AI artists that could could be very famous also? And he said, yeah, I don't think so. What do you think about?
I don't know if it will ever be, until the robots rule the world. I don't think there'll be, the biggest stars won't be AI, because humans are interested in humans. Even if they're watching a robot, they're still interested in humans. They're still interested in themselves. So there probably will be. There probably already is, or has been, a pop star. I don't know if that's true, but an AI pop star. There probably, you know, must be. There must be. And all the music. I know that AI has been writing poetry and writing songs. And a kid I teach recently got AI to write his lyrics for him.
Yeah.
And they're pretty good. You know, it saves you time. And it's the same with the mastering AI that I use, which is sometimes quite rubbish, but sometimes really useful because you can, you know, you can check what the situation is. You can refer to it and then you tweak it. So you've got to, you know, you've got to listen, obviously, to what it does and decide what to do with it, you know. So I think with, I don't know, I'm not up on AI, you know, very well, but from what I can see, it will just get better and better, and that's good because it will. I think it will be good because it will save you time. You know, it will unfortunately put people out of business maybe. You know, mastering is getting cheaper and cheaper. You think you can get a Abbey Road engineer to master your song for $100 or something. And we recently did a friend of mine recently did that. But I was surprised at the results. I won't go into it, but yeah, I suppose it's sad. You know, AI is going to take a lot of jobs away. Full stop. You know, I think that's what I keep hearing from people like Yuval Harari.
Oh yeah.
Philosopher,
Yeah.
who's really good. So we'll see. For me, it's been helpful, but again, I don't think people really want to hear. I don't know. I don't know how. Is it going to be able to write a really good song, like a really good song, like a Bob Dylan song, Leonard Cohen song, or a Neil Young song? I don't think AI can do that. I'm not sure. Maybe if you put in, you know, grungy 60s music, acoustic guitar, vintage gear, and just here's a Neil Young song. I'm not sure.
Isn't it that there was like a test where they had like a classical piece from a famous composer and then like from a, I don't know, nowadays composer and from like the AI thing. And I think the people who should judge it said that the AI thing was at least the second best, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not surprised. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it can replace, like you say, I don't know if you can get an AI on stage
Yeah,
communicating with an audience like a human can. I don't think that I don't think that's going to happen. I think, you know, we'll see.
yeah,
I'm not surprised that it can write amazing classical music because you just tell it. It's like a chess game, you know. Music is mathematical in a way. It obviously has lots of historical traditions. And so if you program all that, I mean, that's why I'm studying, because I'm trying to program what makes a Baroque composer Baroque, and then what makes all the other things themselves. And there are so many elements, you know, and if you can tell a computer all those elements that are extremely complicated and it just can recall them very easily, then it will just produce these generic, maybe slightly inventive pieces of music that do the job for films and stuff. But on the other hand, you know, there's still a market for people who record sound for movies, you know, live. You know, you get those folio guys who have this room full of sand and buckets and metal bits, and they're recording to a big Hollywood film, you know, as it's rolling. And with what we have in AI, surely we can use AI for that. But people don't, you know, big directors or whoever, they're not using. They do choose to use a human. And
yeah,
I think that will probably always be the case to an extent.
yeah, maybe. But I am surprised every day new what it does sometimes. I think you can maybe in 5 years you can write a song and or in a short period and say, please make it sound exactly like, I don't know, like the mix of this band, and it will do it kind of. But I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, it's difficult. I think we have a problem with knowing that it's AI. I think we'll always have a problem with that to an extent. We don't care if, if we're playing, chess with AI, or if we're taking, maybe if we're taking medical advice from AI. I think there's an issue with that will always be the case. Because if we know it's AI, and that's another question,
Yeah.
we won't always know. But if we do know, then we've got a bias, that will always change our view in favor of humans, I think. Ultimately, I don't. Some humans prefer to deal with AI, and that, fine. But I think overall, humanity is going to be biased against AI. And they're not going to. They might trust it, but they prefer it if a human could do it. Probably. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
So there's some hope at least.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I don't know. Are you interested in checking out other producers to see how they do stuff? I mean, I looked up when you were with Serafin, you worked with Dave Sardy, is the name, right? Worked with Marilyn Manson or so. So, did you learn from people like him, or is it like so?
Not as much as I would have liked. I do regret not getting more kind of involved, but when as the singer songwriter, even though I was present, because I was interested in the engineering or the mixing side of things, I didn't want to get involved. I didn't want to ask them questions. I don't know why, but I should have. I kind of regret that. So I always was there, and I was always kind of I was always listening, but I wasn't taking notes. How to produce things. In fact, with Dave Sardy, it's a pretty funny story. That I insisted on coming back to LA from London for the mixing side, and Dave Sardy did not want me there because he likes to mix on it with his friend on their own, which is fine. But I insisted, so I turned up, and he just gave me this box full of DVDs and put me in a room in the mixing studio somewhere else and made me watch all these films instead, which was kind of waste of money. Kind of waste of time flying me out there. So I didn't get any tips at all. I didn't even listen to the mix. I was just watching really good films for weeks. But yeah, he's a great producer. He was, I guess, a great engineer. But with us, he was a producer, and it was just great fun. He had everything, all the pedals. He was a guitarist, so he had a million pedals, a million guitars, and all the amps you could want. And he was just interested in the same kind of thing that you and I would be interested in. What gear can do, what analog gear can do, and making new kind of sounds. He had his own sound as well, which I'm not quite sure how to do it, but he used traditional methods.
Yeah, I kind of understand his approach, because I don't know if you like produced a demo before you went to the studio, because I don't know what you think, but sometimes you can get so immersed in your own demo that you think, okay, this has to sound exactly like this. And if you're like a producer, then of course you're a producer and you have your own idea how it should sound. And sometimes, yeah.
But he was a really good choice. Our manager was right in choosing him. And what is, what do I know? I mean, I know now kind of a little bit, but back then, the sound of a record, that was just what I don't even know what that is really. I just got two guitars, the drums and bass, and sounds fine. And as I say, if he's a rock guy and he's traditional to an extent, as in he knows about analog gear and he knows about guitars and he knows about drums, then you can't really go wrong, especially when he's done the Chili Peppers and Soul Wax and all these amazing albums.
You talked about the analog equipment and the digital equipment, and before you mentioned that you really would like to have like a tape machine. Are you using any analog equipment?
Yeah. Well, before, my chain is going into this Universal Audio LA610, which is fun to play with the compressor particularly. Gives a nice kind of thicker, gluey sound. And the synth I've saved up, well, paid off for years, is analog mostly. And then this other compressor that I can put drums through or whatever after, in the mix stage is really lovely as well. So they kind of do similar things, those two compressors. I was thinking maybe I don't even need the other one. But that's it really. I do have that 4-track, which is analog, but I haven't used it. I'd like to use it.
Is it like a Fostex or Tascam or something?
Yeah, exactly, Tascam.
No.
But I don't have the space for it. I mean, I could put it there or something, but I really would like to get back to just recording into that and then going into the computer. I don't know, it's just fun. I'm not sure if I want a reel to reel, but it would, yeah, I do really want one. Actually, one of those. They're about this big, aren't they?
2-inch or well, super big files.
Yeah,
I saw like a video with Butch Vig the other day, and he said he could like cut, I think, single instruments out of it. Like, so it was like I don't know, it sounded crazy. Not the whole tape, but yeah, this piece here, and it was kind of an art to do it and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I remember, yeah, I've recorded onto tape in studios, and I've seen them do that. I actually accidentally dropped a blade into a tape machine that was spinning. Those blades that,
Yeah.
And it was horrific to that moment because all the engineers were just sweating because that was so. It was a lot of music we'd recorded on that tape, and I don't know why I was there. I think I was cutting because I was used to smoke, and I used to use those blades to cut the filters off cigarettes.
Yeah.
Or to cut them in half. So because the producer used to smoke silk cut. I don't know if you're too young to remember silk cut. Maybe you never even got them. So yeah, silk cut were these terrible cigarettes that you could hardly even taste. So you cut off the filter anyway. I dropped one in there, and they had to unwind it and look for this blade.
Oh.
And it luckily just sat. It just fell like this between the tape. It didn't cut anything.
Yeah.
No, they should have banned me from the studio.
Maybe what would be interesting is if, like, I'm an amateur and I like to start a home recording studio. What would you recommend to buy?
SoundID is called.
Yeah.
Get that plugin.
Okay.
That is the first thing. I wish I had it years ago. It's absolutely essential because unless you have that, you don't know what you're listening to. In fact, you do. I can tell you what you're listening to. You're listening to your speakers, and you're listening to your room, and your speakers in your room are, or your room, I should say, are not perfect, you know, by any, especially your room. You know, this room is terrible for acoustics. It's fine to record in because it's damp and you can angle whatever. But to mix in is terrible. To master in is terrible. So you need, and this is a normal kind of room you get in any house. You know, most people are just using a bedroom or living room. It's terrible. Acoustic, even if you get, I've got panels up and blah blah blah, it makes a little bit of difference. But if you get this plugin, then it is flat. You're listening to perfect flat signal. So if you, when you're recording a guitar, if you're mastering a song, you're listening to that song, you're listening to that guitar, you're not listening to the room, and you're not listening to the speakers. So it's absolutely priceless.
So it measures the room and puts out, no matter what speakers you have, it puts out. Oh, that's weird. Oh,
it's so weird.
Okay.
What you have to hold a microphone all around the room. Yeah. And it tells you, and then it just does the magic.
Okay.
It's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
So you don't need good monitors.
It's you can get more detail maybe with better monitors, you know, but you know, if you've got decent monitor, you don't have to spend thousands and thousands of pounds on treating the room or buying the best speakers, you know, in the world. No. So it's wonderful because when you know what people are going to listen to, you know, the music you're making, you know, is going to translate to everyone around the world, you know, who listens to it. Doesn't matter if it's on, you know, tiny little buds or huge, amazing speakers, it's going to sound good.
Okay. All right, I will check that out. That really sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe one of my last questions would be, when you produced your latest album, can you run us through the process? Do you have like a certain process how you approach things, or is it different every time?
I try and mix it up, you know. So I like to use songs that I've been working on maybe years ago. So I'll go back to ideas that I recorded years ago and make a song. And I like to write songs from scratch as well. And I also like to write a song in a different order. So I remember last time I was talking to you about order of events, and so it's good to mix that up as well. So it could be, you know, instead of guitar, then it's piano, you know. So trying to change it, because it's easy to get stuck in your ways, and it's easy to just say, okay, well, this is my system and I always use it.
Yeah.
So I like to mix up the order. And what's your other question? There's something to, oh yeah, the process. Just mix it up, you know. I think that's what I did a little bit, and I try and do more and more. Try and make it as try and make it random, you know. That's what I would try and do. So I just, you know, I have to push myself in the next one to try and more random, you know, try and write a song, I don't know, in a different order completely, with a weird sound that maybe I've never used before. Could be a preset. I'm slagging off presets before. Maybe start with a preset, you know, because you get different results if you do different things. It makes sense, you know. Do different things, you get different results, and I think you should be doing things differently. Otherwise, it gets boring, and then, you know, what are you doing it for? You know, just fun. Fine, that's fine. But I want to release albums that are interesting, you know, so people haven't necessarily heard it before, you know.
So maybe start with a drum beat.
Yeah, absolutely. maybe drum beat's a weird one because it's fixed usually. The tempo is fixed, and that can be a bit of a bore. You know, I'm a bit confused, not confused, a bit. It's a grey area for me. Tempo, fixed tempos, metronomic fixed tempos that start here and it ends 3 minutes later, and that's the end. And I do that a lot. You know, I'm trying to figure out new ways of doing things. I'm not sure. Haven't come to any conclusions yet. But I want some, especially as I'm limited with drum. I don't have a drum kit. I would like electronic drum kit so I can actually play. I would ideally like a real drum kit. And I have considered going to studios just to record the drums. And but I have been too lazy so far. And you get really nice drum sounds, you know, real drum sounds from your computer. But again, it's not the process that you want. The process you want from drums is to play the drums. That's the ideal process for me. Even if it's electronic, really, I'd love to play live drums with electronic sounds, like weird little synthetic sounds. If I'm playing it and you get a bit of out of time, even if you're playing to a metronome, I think that would be more interesting because you do get that variation. I'm not a huge fan of trying to make. I've done it lots, but I'm getting a bit bored of trying to make my drums sound real. You know, I like to kind of invert that, try and make real sounds sound, you know, unreal in a way. That's quite cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, drums are a weird one. I don't know what I'm going to do next time, but it's going to be different. I'll probably look for really different sounding drums. I'll probably look around for different samples and maybe make my own. I have done that a little bit. That might be nice. I did some recent recordings with just hitting the acoustic that I made into a snare drum or that kind of, you know, you can make a chord hit into a bass drum, you know. You can do that kind of thing as well, but then you're still having to move things and actually with a mouse, and it's just annoying. I'd rather play the thing, you know. I'd rather play a drum kit. So that's my ideal. That's my next step.
Yeah, it's crazy that sometimes the small inconsistencies make it actually good, and you don't know why, but even I mean the super good bands from the 50s, I think then they get a little faster when the chorus comes, and you can't do that with click. So
but it's so lame. Even if you do it with click, which I have done, it's so lame, that process. You're like, oh,
I'm human now.
More exciting. You know, you know, that's not in the right spirit.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I asked all my questions. Do you have something you would like to add?
No, I don't think so. But could you tell me what you're doing at the moment with your recording? Have you got a room set up?
With my own recording?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I only have Logic, and I have like this very old, not so impressive pot. So
I remember those. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not so good. Yeah, I'm thinking about like maybe setting up some microphones to record an amp or maybe, but it's mostly for recording demos. So I even have to make you confessions. I once stole a guitar part from one of your songs.
Oh, good. What was it?
The Show Me the Way. Oh, is it the name of the song? Yeah. I can send you the song.
Yeah.
I mean, but buying a synth like that, that's probably a game changer, right? Because I only have this. It's too short. I only have this one for like, and using the stock Logic sounds, but it's not so good.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, Logic sounds are fine. I think you can go, you can think, they're not good. I don't know. It depends. To me, that's why we get on, is because I think, we agree that it doesn't matter if it sounds crap. To me, I don't know, does it? I don't even know. It's funny that I've got into production. I'm not even sure it makes any difference at all. But I suppose, it does make a difference. I mean, I did some great stuff on a little crappy Casio keyboard,
Yeah.
It's just the
Yeah, I know what you mean.
creativity is creativity. You don't need anything really. This is because I've done a lot. I'm old. I've done a lot. I can just have fun finding out about this really advanced kind of instrument. But when I play it, and I don't go, oh my God, I've never heard anything like it before. It's not like, maybe if I were 20 years ago, I might have thought that. I do think it sounds gorgeous. But if I'd had it 20 years ago, it wouldn't have made a huge difference to my music, really. I suppose because it's based on songwriting, it's not based on electronica or whatever. But if you're an electronic producer, obviously it is a game changer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that when you mentioned you sang along to the Beatles record, because I remember when, I don't know, there was a TV show and the introduction song was like Painted Black, and I recorded with with a microphone. And back when you're like, I don't know, 8 years old, everything's so magic then. So you don't know how it's made, Once you realize, okay, this is how it works, then it loses its magic a bit.
Yeah. Or it sparks something that never stops, I suppose. But to me, the magic. To me, that's never happened. Though I've never kind of thought that it's not magic.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Just the process of recording is magic. I just think that's what it's all about. Loving that very simple, relatively simple technological feat. It's a huge thing.
Yeah.
Humans have been around for a long time. How many thousand years? Many thousands of years.
30,000.
And only in the last, 200, no, 100 and, when was the first recording? Like 200 years ago? Less.
Yeah. That long?
Yeah, less. To actually
Was
record.
it like a shellac record, or what's the first medium? I don't know.
Yeah, it was late 1900s.
Okay.
Sorry, late 19th century. Yeah, late 1800s. So it's not long ago, So that proves, I think, that it's a really kind of magical thing, or it proves that it's a really difficult thing to achieve.
Yeah. So I'm done with my questions. Thank you very much for taking the time again.
Pleasure to talk to you, Jens. Thank you for calling me.